Great. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session on Manchester Smart City, Smart People. For those of you who don't know, I'm Chris Oglesby, Chief Exec of Bruntwood and Chair of Manchester Science Partnerships. And for me, this session goes right to the heart of why we are all here at MIPIM, which is to help support Manchester and our cities in driving forward with a progressive and inclusive growth agenda. I'm delighted today to be joined by Nick Chrysos, who is the head of information technology at Cisco and a true global expert on the. Is that title right, Nick? Is that title right? Innovation, not information. Innovation technology, yes. But he is a true global expert in the area. And Tom Wren, who's the MD of MSP. Both of these guys should have been out at South by Southwest. And they've got the short straw and ended up at Cannes with the property stiffs, albeit in the lovely sunny surroundings. The format today going to be a short presentation by the three of us, followed by what I hope is a reasonable amount of Q&A, because this is one of those subjects that really does touch everybody here. But before we do, I'd just like to introduce a short film to help set the context.
Our world has never been more complicated, connected, or volatile. We are in a digital revolution. And just as the Industrial Revolution changed lives forever, so this new one is doing the same. Once again, our cities are key. Only by working together to create smart cities that integrate information with communication can we hope to succeed. Public sector, private sector, academia, all working in partnership. Together we must create better buildings, better transport, better education, and better healthcare. Every part of every city must be connected so that information is shared and used for the good of everyone. Because people are at the heart of this transformation, we need to meet their needs and their aspirations. We need to give them new and improved ways to work, live, and interact. The digital revolution is changing our world forever. Together, we will change it for the better. This is the power of vision.
So no small challenge and gauntlet thrown down to us there as an industry. I grew up in Manchester through its decline in the 60s, 70s and 80s and left for London in 88. With most of my mates from school, that was what you did in those days. I returned for what were intended to be a brief stint at probably what was the lowest point for the city in the teeth of the recession of 91. And I'd say I hadn't intended to stay very long. I'm still here. I stayed and following what has been a brilliant 26 years at Bruntwood, 17 of those now as the chief exec. And with many of you in this room, I've seen and been part of the city's renaissance to the point today where I've said, been sort of quoted several times, I have never known demand for space, demand from business in our city region to be so strong. To such an extent, actually, that I would say I feel the biggest challenge at the moment is no longer economic regeneration, although we cannot take that for granted, and that is still a challenge, but rather it is developing the infrastructure to keep up with the pace of that economic growth and ensuring as well that this growth is truly inclusive. For me, the city has got past its tipping point. So whereas back in 91 it had absolutely shrunk back inside itself, it's now starting to creak at the seams again. This success has come from a combination of attracting, retaining and developing the best talent, which in turn has created the conditions to attract, retain and develop the best business, creating this perfect virtuous circle. This is where the concept of the smart city comes in for me, because if we are to keep this virtuous circle, particularly in a world of austerity, we're going to have to adopt the very best technology to deliver more for less across the city. And when looking at the three reasons why I feel it's so important that Manchester takes the lead as a smart city. Firstly, the very obvious thing in terms of that infrastructure, we need more efficient city management, both to deal with the creaking infrastructure and also to ensure this city continues to be a great place for its citizens. Secondly, in terms of economic development, Manchester was the first industrialised city and we exported that to the world. We have a great opportunity now to be the exemplar post-industrial city and doing this, export this to the world. this is one of the things, if we've got the time, I really would like to return to with you all in the Q&A, because I think there's really an opportunity here. And when the guys explain some of the stuff that's been done through CityVerve, through the IoT demonstrator, which is applicable pretty well to every single one of you in terms of what you do, I think there's an opportunity for us to create some kind of very interesting model where the public sector, private sector come together to create a PropTech centre of excellence, to create a true world-class centre of excellence in smart cities, where as businesses we're investing in some of these companies, in our sectors, and it's really an interesting way in which, as I say, everyone here can look at expanding their businesses. And thirdly is brand. Something that the city's been so strong at. The city positioned itself as a progressive place, the original modern city. And for me, developing smart city technology is completely aligned and essential to this. The brand of the city is just so important in the global war for talent. So I'm proud of the role that Bruntwood and MSP played in winning the UK's IoT demonstrator CityVerve to Manchester. And I'm equally thrilled in doing so that we persuaded Cisco to deploy some of their best people in the city. It's through projects like this that we're able to bring companies like Cisco. We can't just get on a plane and go, come and locate in Manchester, Mr. Top 10 world tech companies. They're not going to come. If we go to them with a reason, though, we can get them in. And once we've got them in, as I hope Nick will explain, we can prove what a brilliant city this is to do business. So on that note, hand over to Nick Chrysos.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. This was brilliant. And about almost 2 years ago, Innovate UK put out this call for a city to come forward to demonstrate what a smart city will look like. That was the whole idea of the IoT demonstrator. They wanted something that is going to be sustainable, something that's not going to be an experiment, something that is going to be built and then stay there and it will leave a legacy in the city. They wanted something that was replicable, something that was scalable. It can go from a small village, but it can go to a big city. It can go to a much bigger city than Manchester. And they wanted something that is going to be also procurable, something that people can buy, not something that people can see, something that people can admire, but something that people can deploy the minute that we demonstrate it. They wanted also something that is going to be able not only to demonstrate what technology can do, but leave enough time within the project to showcase the impact that it's going to have to citizens. So it was a huge task. 34 cities applied. 34 cities applied, and from that they came together and they put 21 amazing proposals. There were 6 finalists, and Manchester was chosen as the city that put the most impactful proposal forward. The feedback from the government was that it was the most ambitious, the most innovative, and the most feasible of all the proposals. And the partnership, although it's a big partnership, it's 21 partners, is something that every one of them were there put together to really deliver something very special. This project doesn't try to really boil the ocean. It's very difficult within a specific project to really fix the whole Manchester. It focuses in the center of Manchester, what we call the innovation corridor. It's a 2-kilometer stretch that goes from the town hall down to the park. We're having 16 million pounds. 16 million pounds, 10 of this is grant from the government, 6 million is from the partners. But this is a non-profit, and sometimes people don't understand what means non-profit. Really, everything that we do in the project is down to cost. To give you an example, to make it a bit more real, hardware that we're using in the project is priced about 5% of the list price that you have it out there, because it's down to how exactly much it costs to manufacture it and ship it. So if this was a tender kind of project, if this was given to companies as a project developed, it goes closer to 80 million pounds than what is at the moment. So it's a huge amount of money. It's a very short time. It's a lot of partners to deliver something amazing. And it is something amazing. Before we even put the proposal together, we looked into every city around the world. We looked into Tokyo. We looked into Singapore. We looked into Barcelona, what they were doing there. We looked into Rio in 2014. They named themselves a smart city. We looked into Lyon and into Paris to see what kind of smart cities also they were talking about. And there was a common theme. Every city around the world, they call themselves smart city, is isolated solutions that they are put together into a cluster to say that we are having a smart city. I know it's a bit harsh, but this is the reality of most smart cities there. What we wanted to do in CityVerve was not do that. We believe into connecting the unconnected. We believe that if you put the healthcare data and the transport data and the energy and environment data in the same place, and you break the ceiling of this kind of isolation of data that we had in the past, break the ceiling and bring them all together, you can create solutions that do not exist today. You can really create a smart city, a city that is not just about really giving isolated solutions to individual themes, but a city that can create new solutions that we've never seen before. 128 use cases are going to be deployed in Manchester in the next 18 months. 128 use cases that all have been judged to be something new, something that has never been repeated anywhere else, something that really has a commercial revenue stream behind it. We don't want something that's just been based on a grant and it will never be repeated anywhere else. Something that's commercial and something that's replicable, something that people can really deploy it. We did break it down into different themes. And this is before I go into the themes, it's worth to mention a bit some of the partners. Of course, from the one side, we have the Manchester City and the Manchester City Council and the whole idea of the devolution agenda that the Manchester is leading. The aggregated authority played a very big role to why Manchester was actually chosen as one as the winner of this project. It wasn't just based on the technology and the feasibility. On the other side, we have, of course, the Manchester Science Partnership, which they bring together an amazing set of startups, part of their own community, that they deliver all these really innovative ideas. And then, of course, you have the big public organizations, Transport for Greater Manchester. You have the two universities, University of Manchester, Manchester Metropolitan University. You have the two NHS trusts as part of the partnership. These are not the clients in the project. These are the partners in the project. It makes a very, very big difference when you sit on the table, when us as Cisco or BT or Siemens, we're sitting on the table and we don't try to sell. We sit all together to try to show to the world what a smart city will look like. And then you bring people like Ordnance Survey and you bring small guys like asset mapping, that they have done amazing ideas and they're really putting them in practice, that they can change buildings around the world, and we're putting them all together into a single project. We are focusing into the individual themes. We're focusing into healthcare, we're focusing into transportation, into energy and environment, and into the social and public realm, as we call it. We wanted to really identify elements that we can fix, elements that we can have an impact. We looked into what exactly can we do on the healthcare. COPD stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It's for people that have long-term breathing problems. And it's one of the diseases, while it's the 5th killer in UK, it's one of the diseases that just monitoring the patient is not enough. You need to help people avoid pollution hotspots. You need to help people avoid areas of the city that they will be harmful to them and they will bring another breathing attack. We are mixing the things together. We are monitoring air quality. We are advising people. We are monitoring their house with all sorts of different sensors on humidity and air quality. We are bringing it all together and we advise people how to run their day. They will get advised about what actually bus to take based on the route, avoiding their pollution hotspots. If it's better to use the tram on that day, or if it's better to use the bicycle on that day, or don't use the bicycle on that day because it doesn't really, the route that you're using is not the right route for that day today. Then we're looking into areas of really improving the way that the community comes together, how people communicate about healthcare. We're looking into the safety of social workers. We're looking into how we really manage these teams. How can we make them more efficient? How we can really put them out there. And I will go to some of the details because I think it's worth to give you some examples of the new ideas that we are putting there. Let me give you an example. And let me tell you something about talkative bus stops. Talkative bus stops are this idea that a bus stop becomes a safe haven. You don't have just a bus stop that you wait for the bus, but it knows the bus stop that you are actually there. It will bring on-demand kind of transportation if there isn't one scheduled, but also you can communicate to the bus stop. And that is where it becomes very, very interesting. Most people are measuring today their steps. Even if you don't want, your phone actually measures your steps, even if you don't want if you don't know about it. And for most people, it's a good enough nudge to walk more. So the healthcare guys will tell you that from if you increase your steps from 1,000 steps a day to 10,000 steps a day, you will reduce your possibility for heart attack to 1/5. And while this should be an amazing nudge and everybody should be running around just by knowing this, the truth is that people don't really do it. So we wanted to take elements like this and make them real. So if you go to a bus stop inside the corridor, hopefully by June, the bus stop will offer to you that if you walk to the next bus stop, actually your bus fare is going to be free. And this is some of the ideas that if you connect the unconnected, you can incentivize people. You can really now, and the most incredible thing of all this is that the finances for that, the healthcare guys are willing to really finance the free tickets. Because it makes, in the return of investment, it makes a lot of sense. The logistics behind it, the technology behind it is not that amazing. But the concept that you put it all together, it really shows what means connecting the unconnected. Then when we go into the energy and environment, don't forget I mentioned 128 use cases. Of course, we're doing the smartest parking that you can get out there, the lighting that we've never done before. We do lighting inside the buildings and outside the buildings. We're using new technologies like the digital ceiling that really provides a completely new way of managing and deploying lighting today. We're measuring air quality inside the buildings, which is a concept that most people have not thought before. The truth is if the building is facing a busy road, you have more pollution in the building than outside the building. Maybe that's an information that not a lot of people want to know, but the truth is that knowing about it, it makes a big difference. We're measuring the heating of the pipes. Most people out of compliance, I think most of you know that you have to heat the water in order to be compliant and make sure that there are no bacteria in the water. Most buildings are overheating their pipes because they don't know if they've done it right. They are still not compliant because there are still places that they haven't hit them enough, and they are spending more energy because they are heating the pipes the wrong way. We are putting technology that really can help people manage the buildings. We're looking in buildings that they have no business management systems. We're looking at buildings that have all business management systems. And we're looking at the future. We're looking at buildings that it really manages the completely new way of how they were managing before. And we're doing it at the city level. We're bringing everything together. But there's one element that really makes Cityverse very unique to everything else. On top of this kind of platform of platforms that we're talking on, the technology that is behind that links everything together, the technology that can make a city smart wherever you deploy it, independent of the solution that you deploy, is the citizen element. Every one of these 128 cases has been designed with citizens participating, not given to citizens to review them and provide us with the feedback. No, they were part of the design. And while this might sound simple, it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult getting somebody with 35 years in transportation, sit them on the same table with somebody who just uses a bus, and being able to discuss their opinions. And I have to tell you, this has been very, very challenging. And how do you come designing something like that and put it all together? That's our citizen champions. And we really thought and we created a whole system of how can we engage people in this way. But we don't stop there. We're building an amazing digital platform. Anywhere in the corridor after the end of July, we hope, I'll give you a bit more insight on this. After the end of July, we're using a new system from a company called Kilter. It's called a micro-location social platform. It means that when you go on the free Wi-Fi, which by the way, we don't have anymore any registration or anything like that. We call it 5 swipes to the internet. You just have to swipe 5 times on your smart device to go to the internet. And in these 5 swipes, we believe that we're going to show you such amazing content that you won't be able to go to the internet at the end. You're going to get into these pages. Now, the reason for these pages being very effective is because the information is about the restaurant behind you, about the bus stop in front of you. We take your location, and the content is only what exists around you. And that makes the social kind of engine very, very relevant. All the content is very relevant suddenly to you. Anywhere in the city, you don't have to do anything else. We know where you are. You're in a bus stop. If you go on the Wi-Fi on the bus stop, what you see is what's happening in the bus stop. You see what's happening on the store opposite the road. And this is what we wanted to create. We wanted to create something that is useful, something that will make your life better, something that will make everybody's life more efficient. But then, not everybody goes on the digital platform. How do you engage people that they don't have to do anything with smart devices? How do you engage people that they will never connect to the Wi-Fi? We're putting artwork in the middle of the city. And we found that artwork is the most efficient way of engaging people in something that have no interest. We have selected specifically artwork that is going to make people question. It's going to make people understand that something is happening. It's going to make people understand that something new is happening in the city. And they will make people question, how? How can this be possible? I don't want to reveal exactly what's going to be the art. We haven't yet paid the artist for this. But I can tell you, it's a very unique way. It's something that we believe is going to grab everybody's attention. It's something that's going to show to people that technology now is everywhere, and something that's going to show to people that things are happening while they are sitting and drinking their coffee. I'm not going to say anymore. We're planning a big public announcement when the art is available. But there is one thing that I wanted also to mention here before I finish and hand over to Tom. The building a smart city and all these hundreds of use cases that I talked about is one thing. We designed all that about, as I mentioned, 1.5 years ago. And while we believe that we designed the smartest of all the smart cities out there, we make sure that we do that, it doesn't mean that when we finish, we're still going to have the smartest of all the smart cities. It's so much work happening around that you cannot really compete. For that reason, we wanted to create something that will evolve even within the project. We are starting the biggest ever hackathon that happened in UK. We're going to have a 12-month hackathon. We're going to run an open competition for individuals, for universities, for small companies to come forward and give us ideas that we don't have. We're going to choose 2 winners every month. We're going to run like a Dragon's Den system, and we're going to choose 2 winners every month, and we're going to develop the prototypes of these solutions. We will have 24 new solutions by the end of the year. We will build 24 new solutions that they are chosen because we haven't thought before and they are having a real impact into the city. From the one side, we want to make sure that we are the smartest city also when we finish the project. From the other side, we want to prove that we're building a platform that not only has all these clever things on it, but it can accommodate any idea. Our definition of smart city is not a city that has flying cars and robots doing everything for everybody. It's a city it can accommodate any idea. It will evolve with the citizens. It will make things better. It will make things safer. It will make things more efficient. And this is what CityVerve is all about. This is a quote from a long time ago that it was based on how you lead things. We can sit back and see what technology is going to bring in the future. We can sit back and wait for the next bright idea. Or we can really move ahead and build the partnerships, build the public sector, work with the public sector, work with the private sector, bring the academia together, bring the startups together, and create the future. And this is what this quote is all about. If you really want to predict the future, the best way is to create it. Thank you.
Well, that's got me pretty revved up. A tough act to follow. Thanks, Nick. Even as a partner to CityVerve, I always think when I sit back and hear someone speak about it, just gets me really excited about the opportunity we have in Manchester. It was a huge coup for the city. And the great thing is, like Nick said, citizen is at the heart of it. It is citizen design centred and it's citizen science in action. And projects like these, they're not just about pushing technology to replace people. They are truly bedded around the idea of improving people's lives, making sure that they're more efficient, more enjoyable, and smarter, whether it be optimising our transport infrastructure that Nick sort of touched on, to ease congestion in our cities, and that's at times a challenge in Manchester, or using smart energy solutions to balance grid demand so that we can meet the kind of needs of our future development. Or as Nick said, providing remote patient monitoring to improve quality of care as they navigate through our cityscape. The CityVerve project is a great project for Manchester, and the latest development on the MSP site, the Bright building that we've launched sort of today, opens in May and will be the HQ for this project. It's going to have the team based in there that are running the show on Corridor, but importantly then it will act as the sort of test bed for a lot of these devices. So it's one of the unique buildings that will start to see a lot of interesting technology implemented on it, and we offer that up as that test bed, both to the project but to the SMEs on the MSP campus and beyond, to kind of be able to play with our space. And not only this building, but the other 10 that sit on that campus will start to be evolving with it. Bright Building is also going to be the HQ for My Idea, an innovation centre that we're forming in partnership with Cisco that builds on a model that they actually launched in London a number of years ago called Ideal. It's been really successful down there, raising about 40 million of investment into about 30 companies that have grown through it, seen about 200 to 300 jobs grown from this centre. And what it's doing is looking at supporting companies that want to demonstrably scale up. It's not an incubator. We're not accelerating companies. We're helping companies scale and commercialise. And by doing that, what we're focusing on is IoT, smart cities, and digital health. So playing back to Manchester's strengths, looking at our core competencies, looking at our core focuses, and seeing how we can then better support the sector there. Inside the Bright building, it's not just going to be a great example of how our workspaces reflect the changing demands of our cities, but it'll be one of the most connected buildings to date. We're going to have best-of-breed interoperable technologies, hyperlocation service to give us real-time occupancy data, environmental sensors, as Nick said, so we can understand how terribly polluted the building is or not, hopefully, and smart parking that interacts with the digital signage. So these are kind of very easy, applications in any building that we can retrofit, but in this new building, we're looking to take that, a step further. As Nick said, using power over Ethernet technology, the digital ceiling will provide next-generation lighting. We're going to have our lights powered by Cat6 cabling, no more electrical infrastructure. And this is the sort of starting place for the digital ceiling. Lights first, but then in the future, alarms, cameras, whatever we can link onto that infrastructure. Yes, we'll be able to lower occupational costs, but actually significantly we'll change the way that people interact with the space. And I think that's where sort of Nick was leading to, is actually getting people to engage with the technology and to make it kind of just a cohesive experience. These innovations, coupled with the latest collaboration technology in our communal and meeting spaces, means that our customers will be able to connect globally, and it really changes the kind of platform that they work within. Telepresence, smart screens, just improving the way that companies collaborate and getting them to be able to link out to other global hotspots without actually having to leave the city. The building will literally be that living lab, and so will every others on our campus, as I said. We've heard from the film and Nick that the demands of our cities are also becoming greater and more complex. Bruntwood cares passionately about the cities in which we operate, and we see ourselves having a huge role to play in improving the cities. Last year, Rowena and Chris stood here and spoke about Corridor Manchester, one of the top 5 innovation districts in Europe, demonstrating the power of that collaboration, innovation and transformation. And 1 year on, I intend to speak a little bit about the progress that Corridor Manchester continues to make. After all, this is where we expect to see over 5,000 jobs created over the next 10 years and will help continue to drive the economic growth of Greater Manchester. A lot has happened in 12 months, and the corridor in particular continues to undergo a tremendous physical transformation. This is essential if we're going to create places for businesses to locate and high-quality jobs to be formed. Our work in the corridor is squarely focused on creating smart spaces for Manchester's growth sectors to thrive. Partnership is always at the heart of this, and last year, Bruntwood and Manchester Science Partnerships were proud to announce that we are working under a strategic property partnership with the Central Manchester University Hospital's NHS Foundation Trust. That's the tongue twister for a speech, or CMFT for short. This innovative new property partnership, thought to be the first of its kind in the UK, will support the delivery of clinical care as well as the future development of this major hospital site. Our focus on the expansion of our science and tech business has continued at pace. In July 2016, we welcomed the European Science Open Forum, the world's largest general science conference, to Manchester, which saw over 4,500 of the world's leading scientists, academics, researchers and journalists enjoy everything our great city has to offer. So there's no more fitting time for us to unveil the development of City Labs 2 and 3. This is not City Labs 2 or 3, this is City Labs 1, the model in which they are being built upon. A biomedical centre of excellence right in the heart of that hospital campus. We fully let the building, 100,000 square foot, or very close to it, within 15 months of opening, to over 20 innovative companies. People like Hitachi's European Big Data team, Nuffield Health, who have their next generation imaging suite there, the Stoller Biomarker Discovery Centre, which is focused on precision medicine, and many more. And since the demand for this specialist space has been so high, that's why we are creating City Labs 2, which will be another 90,000 square foot, again, actually on the hospital campus. And City Labs 3, a further 128,000 square foot. This, again, importantly, repositions and reinvents another Grade 2 beautiful listed property on the Oxford Road corridor. And it means that we can attract a further, we imagine, 50 companies onto the site And it's really about that kind of revolving door where we're trying to take innovation out of the hospital into a commercial environment and then see it readopted back into the NHS that gets us and our juices sort of really flowing. These developments will be key to the city's health fabric, following the devolution of Manchester's £6 billion health and social care budget and following the creation of Health Innovation Manchester, the body set up to speed the discovery, development and adoption of innovative solutions to improve the health of almost the 3 million population in Greater Manchester and beyond. City Labs, like the Bright Building, are not simply physical spaces. We're creating communities where cohorts of companies and their people can come together, share ideas, develop commercial applications for groundbreaking research, and grow their research. Our track record in supporting communities of entrepreneurs and innovators meant that back in December last year, we were selected by Manchester City Council for the creation of Manchester's Tech Hub, a new £2 million incubator for Manchester's startups and tech entrepreneurs, focusing on early stage companies that actually complements the My Idea Innovation Centre tremendously. It has a broader focus, seeking startups generally working across the data science and technology innovation space. And they are startups that will be coming into here, those with the kind of proof of concept work to undertake. And then we see them playing into that My Idea space. Once they've evolved their model, received some funding, coming through to then help them commercialise and take that to a sort of global stage. Tech hubs play a key role in the UK government's recently launched digital strategy. So it is fitting that ours will be located in the former Manchester Technology Centre, where the home of the National Computing Centre previously was. This forms part of the 2.4 million square foot Circle Square mixed-use development that will see the creation of a brand new neighbourhood on the top of Oxford Road. The Tech Hub will be officially launched in December and will open in January 2018. And the Circle Square Hub will link, as I say, with the My Idea Innovation Centre, a truly unique proposition for Manchester. For those of you that were here earlier in the week, you may have heard Chris speak in more detail about our vision for Circle Square. It's pretty exciting, and the numbers are really quite big. 2.4 million square foot, 1,300 new homes, some of those students, some of them PRS, 1.2 million square foot of workspace, 100,000 square foot of high-end retail, 2 hotels, and all surrounded by 250,000 square foot of beautiful public realm. Of course, acknowledging what me and Nick have been speaking about, these buildings are going to be smart buildings. It's going to be a smart space. We are going to be integrating those technologies that Nick's talked about and taking the best of the 128 use cases into them. It's about us evolving our business model, but also our property model to meet the needs of the customers of the future. Nearly 2/3 of this community will be in place in less than 3 years' time, and we've brought forward the first commercial building to market. Architecturally, the designs reflect our heritage, Manchester's local Victorian warehouses, but inside, as I say, BREEAM excellent, super connected workspace, including co-working, shared space and small suites, and all providing the next home for the Manchester entrepreneurs. Outside, wrapping the front of Oxford House, under the Mancunian Way, for those of you that know it, we're going to offer a really good retail experience, blending food and beverage with arts and culture. With the Afflex team on board, who have years of authentic experience creating a unique and thriving community of sort of retail startups, this urban market is really going to transform the cultural sense on Corridor, and I'm really excited to have it just up the road from Manchester Science Park. New sensors, connecting Circle Square to University Green, deep beneath the ground, we're going to have high voltage heat networks, and energy storage sources are pioneering the way our city is going to be controlled. New sensors, control systems, and communications allow the existing electricity infrastructure to be used more effectively, and it means, importantly, we don't have to dig up the roads. Assets will be monitored to enable prescriptive maintenance, meaning our customers won't even know there is a problem detected. Sort of what Nick was talking about here on the compliance side with the water. We'll know if there's a problem in the building, we'll be able to remedy it. No one has to log the fault with someone at reception. We want to really just get ahead of that curve in terms of being able to deliver excellence to our customers. And things that will help us do it are actually the SME asset mapping that Nick showed earlier, who help digitise buildings, whether they're new buildings or existing. 70% of the buildings in the UK are what we sort of call dumb, in the sense that they might not have a very expanded BMS system. But using this sensor technology, using their platforms, we can connect up these buildings and start to better manage them. This low carbon approach has also attracted a lot of global attention recently. And our work is also supported by people like Tesla, whom we hosted an event with only a few weeks ago. This discussion and work with Tesla is focused on the use of new mass energy storage solutions to enable us to take our buildings off-grid at peak times, helping to balance those grid demands, optimise our consumption, make it more commercial, and in other applications, ensure renewable energy infrastructure is sustainable and effective. In the UK alone, last year, 90 million was paid to owners of renewable technology to not put their energy on grid. So things like this mass energy storage is critical to make those renewable technologies work for us. And us balancing those grid demands will make sure that we have enough power to keep growing our cities. Moving down the corridor, University Green is home to the 400,000 square foot mixed-use redevelopment of the Alliance Manchester Business School, Executive Education Centre, and the 19-storey Crown Plaza and Staybridge Suites Hotel. This forms an integral part of the university's £1 billion transformation of the University of Manchester campus over the next 10 years. The Northern Powerhouse has identified the importance of growing the business leadership capabilities across the north, and this development will play an important role in this, providing a great environment for leadership development. MBS, as I prefer to call it, really is a globally important business school, and we're going to see more and more international people come to Manchester, experience what we have to offer, and hopefully want to stay and put their skills into our businesses. Manchester is home, for those who don't know, of 80,000 students, and we know that attracting and retaining talent is key for science and tech businesses right across the city. That's why we're keen that our development support the university in attracting the best students with world-class facilities for the future. Finally, in my extended tour of the corridor, I should mention the redevelopment of Oxford Road Station into a new gateway to the corridor and city. As I stand here, we're in talks with Network Rail and Manchester City Council to explore how we can add value for the millions of people that use these stations every day, getting more people into the city more efficiently and ultimately supporting the growth of that city. So as we developed Bright Building and our science and tech products, the team took a deep dive really into how we could innovate what was often thought about our more traditional offices. It's clear that progressive businesses and people who work within them have changing demands. Nick's touched on that, I've touched on that. But when we looked at our new building, NEO, we had these ideas right at the forefront of our mind. The concept for the former Bank House site wasn't just born out of the need to do something new, which is where it derives its name from, but it actually grew as a natural response to the impact of smart cities and IoT tech. The team wanted to develop a building that makes the lives of our customers more enjoyable and efficient. So, of course, smart building technology means that the building management systems are able to capture and analyze data and energy use, and we can make sure that the building hums quite nicely. But we've also installed fully integrated Bluetooth-enabled security systems to allow seamless access through the building via your smartphone, doing away with those silly fobs and access cards that I so often lose, and increasing remote security capability. So if an employee needs to be added to an area, we can do that remotely. If they needed to no longer with the company, we can close that down, keeping buildings secure, keeping people moving through them. NEO also offers pervasive Wi-Fi throughout the building and roof garden to ensure you stay connected everywhere. Taking this step further, we've pre-installed access points and data cables to every floor to allow new customers to move in and get an instantaneous internet connection. We're doing away with having that sort of 3-week to 3-month waiting time for internet service providers to plug you in. And it means that through occupancy sort of services like hyperlocation, we can understand how the whole building is used, how that works, and then try and evolve our offer to suit them. And through a customer portal and app, customers can and will be able to socialize, learn about events, book facilities, and even monitor their bandwidth usage and upgrade their internet service speed in real time. And what I mean by this is, if you're there working on a project and you know you need to have a huge amount of data upload or download, we'll literally be able to instantaneously give them another 100 meg, give them another 500 meg of internet speed. And that kind of control to a customer is just critical if they want to keep their business running lean, but at the same time deliver an excellent service when they're working in their digital space. In the reception, we've invested £250,000 into a state-of-the-art digital wall, which creates abstract art, digital art from real-time building data with energy usage, real-time hashtag tweets, movement in the reception, and the current wind speed and direction. Here's a little video of it sort of running in the background, and it even responds to what people are wearing. So in a sense, this building is talking to its customers. It's taking the data from what they're doing in the building and then putting it digitally into the reception space. I think it's pretty smart, and I think it's going to be a new evolving art piece for us. So, I've spoken quite a bit, and I want to just close on sort of what I feel Manchester really sort of reflects. For me, it's my adopted city. I grew up in the south. I came here for university, and I don't intend to ever really leave the space. Things like the City of Earth project, things that we're doing with smart cities, it really is, the way forward, and I think we're leading in that global space. So many thanks from me, Nick and Chris, and look forward to taking questions from you all.
I think we've probably got about another 5 minutes or so just for a couple of quick questions. And well done, Tom, on your maiden MIPIM speech. It was a bit like following Sinatra here, so I think he did pretty well, didn't he? Got a question here at the front.
Talking about interconnecting the unconnected, what's the hard infrastructure requirement, and what is the deficit currently?
So at the moment, there are multiple platforms out there. So every one of the isolated solutions that I talked about, they have what we call their own domain. And even Cisco ourselves, BT, they have their own one. They have the data hub. There are multiple companies around the world, and they have their own platforms. As a mandate for the project was to really create a single platform. We used the protocol developed called Hypercat in UK about 2 years ago, and we're putting all the platforms underneath a single layer. The view from any solution on the top and the view from any sensor at the bottom is that this is a single system. It doesn't exist. We are building it. CityVerve is creating this blueprint of how you bring this platform in the middle. Every application that wants to access data in the platforms we're looking in the future will request an access code from the city. The city is in control. At any point, the city decides that this application does not use the data, or it does not produce the right information, or for any reason they don't want any more of this, they can just stop the key, and it puts the city in control. It's a very different concept to what we had before, and this is what is behind CityVerve. Again, as I mentioned, we're breaking multiple ceilings here on concept. One of the key parts of the teams in CityVerve is what we call the Data Privacy and Trust Committee. We have built a committee together that consists of public sector, it consists of the Petras team, the universities, that will really define new rules and new concepts of how we're bringing this thing together. One of the biggest hurdles that CityVerve is trying to overcome is not the technology element of how you bring everything together, but is the legislation and the policies behind it.
And I mean, it was interesting, Howard mentioned it in the earlier session for those of you that were here, Science in the City, just the importance that the city is placing on growing its cybersecurity sector. We are and have been identified in the UK as the leading centre for cybersecurity, and this is going to be so important for us as we start to develop and further roll out our IoT technology. Over here.
Tom, question
Hi.
for you. So you talked about some of the innovations that you're rolling out in your buildings.
Yep.
And just in the interest of connecting all of Manchester and the benefits of that rolling out across the whole city, will you share that with other developers, or are you working with other developers, such as in Circle Square, for example, so other buildings benefit from that?
Yeah, I mean, Manchester Science Partnerships, Bruntwood is our private sector shareholder, so everything that we learn and do through the project is sort of seamlessly connected in, as the development expertise that sits within MSP is ultimately the Bruntwood development talent and project management talent. So it expands beyond our campus there, also stretches into Alderley Park in Cheshire, where we have our bioscience campus, up to Circle Square. But also, I mean, it's both ways. Bruntwood's innovations at NEO are from its core team developing those strategies and then playing them back so that other people, can see them. And we have that role. It's a bit like what Nick described as how you then take that and share it and make the sector evolve. And Chris's challenge about, do people want to get involved, form some form of prop tech investment group, look at where we can innovate and drive our future, as opposed to just letting technology happen to us. We actually are the experts in our field, and we could be developing companies ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keen that this is something that goes a lot further than just our organisation and becomes a real centre of excellence for the city. And it's one of those areas where I think, as a group of the development community of Manchester has been very good at collaborating over the years. I just feel this is one of those areas again where through collaboration we can do an awful lot more, which in turn is then going to attract the business into the city, and then we can have a good old scrap over who wins those occupiers. But until we get to that point, there's a lot more that we can do, I think, in terms of sharing this best practice and rolling it out. It's been, I can't see the select guys here. I think, I'm not sure if they're back from Monaco yet or not, but it's been interesting working there at Circle Square, and the experience of trying to knit the technology between the two organisations, but we can go a lot further than formal JVs as well.
Anyone else? Great.
Okay, thanks very much for your time, and thanks for your attention. We've kept you a long time. Really appreciate it.